The giant basin of the St. Lawrence and the Great Lakes, the biggest and best of its kind in the world, is the daily supplier of water to Montreal and 18 suburban cities. The water comes from the middle of the St. Lawrence. The 4 pre-stressed concrete conduits, each 7 feet in diameter, which draw the water in, are anchored in concrete 1,800 feet from the shore and 1.5 miles above the Lachine Rapids. They keep the aqueduct canal constantly filled. There are 5 miles of this canal, which incidentally was begun more than a century ago in 1853. It contains some 380 million gallons of water. All this pours into the waterworks at a foot of Atwater Street. The 11 pumps in this plant can handle a total of 400 million gallons a day. Those you see here can each take care of 50 million daily. They raise the water 11 feet and drop it into the filters. Looking at the waterworks from the outside, you see 2 main buildings. There is the central pumping station with its tower, and there is the filtration plant, which in recent years has grown so fast that now it covers all the available space. The summertime visitor enters through an attractive avenue bordered with poplars, maples, and flowering shrubs. The greensward decking of the underground reservoirs completes a refreshing park-like scene. Over the great doors of the main entrance is the Montreal coat of arms. We are entering by number 5 filter gallery. Each of the 6 filter galleries can purify 50 million gallons of water at the normal rate. That makes a total of 300 million gallons daily. Each gallery has 16 filters, which means 96 in all. Each of the filters has 1,200 square feet of surface. They are made up of perforated pipes covered with a 15-inch layer of gravel of graduated size, over which there is a second layer 30 inches deep and made of special quality sand. The raw water goes through this entire mass and comes out cleansed of its impurities. The filters themselves must of course be washed from time to time, that is, every 24 to 96 hours, depending upon season and other circumstances. First, the inflow of raw water is shut off, and the rest is drained into the sewer. A man at the control station follows these operations, which are repeated alternately from one gallery to another. The layer of raw water above the top of the sand is lowered to 6 inches, and then air under pressure of 5 pounds per square inch is blown upwards through the mass of gravel, causing friction and agitation, which clean the sand by loosening the suspended dirt and pushing it upward. This lasts from 2 to 4 minutes. Then filtered water from raised tanks is let in through the pipes at the bottom at a rate of 16 inches a minute. This cleansing flood carries the dirty water away to the sewer. 3 to 5 minutes, depending upon the case, is the time for this operation, which calls for from 80 to 100,000 gallons of filtered water for each washing. The job of washing the filter is completed. Normal functioning can now start again, and this is done by pulling a lever and once more letting the raw water enter. The basin fills up and quietly resumes its task of making dirty water clean. 3 million gallons of water a day is what each filter can give in normal operation. The filtered water flows down to the underground reservoirs, which can hold 53 million gallons. And this isn't all, because there is another basin containing 19 million gallons of water treated before entering with chlorine gas, which, injected in small but sufficient quantities, destroys harmful bacteria and completes the purification process. The quantity of chlorine which remains in the water is continuously and thoroughly tested. By the manual control, in accordance with the reading of the automatic recorder, the proportion of the sterilizing gas can be accurately controlled at 15/100th parts of a pound per 100,000 gallons of water. This is a tiny but effective quantity. The chlorine comes in liquid state in steel cylinders containing 1 ton each at a pressure of 125 pounds per square inch. It is stored in a special building where the chlorination is done. The filtered and chlorinated water fills the 19 million gallon basin and goes out through the distribution system to all the water taps in Montreal and suburban cities. This clear water, serving the various points of consumption over a wide area, starts from the low-level central plant. This means that at certain places it must be raised as much as 750 feet, and that some of it must be forced along a distance of 18 miles. Instrument boards record the functioning of the pumps and electrical equipment and allow a constant watch to be kept. Mighty electrical pumps, each able to handle up to some 30 million gallons daily, play a big part now in distributing the water. They continuously deliver the treated water into the principal feeder mains and the McTavish and Rosemount reservoirs. Reservoirs situated on nearly all sides of Montreal and at different levels take the surplus from the pumps, balance the distribution, and maintain a constant pressure in their particular zone. The McTavish Reservoir is the oldest from a location standpoint. It has a 231-foot altitude and a 33 million gallon capacity. Its pumping station forces the water to the Bellingham and Côte de Neige reservoirs, both considerably higher. Only the Bellingham reservoir is not covered. At a 387-foot altitude, it can take 45 million gallons. The Côte de Neige reservoir is higher but smaller, with a 497-foot altitude and containing just over 7 million gallons. And its pumping station feeds two smaller reservoirs, Summit and Montreal. Summit, at 657 feet, contains 3 million gallons. Montreal stands at 749 feet and can receive 180,000 gallons. Rosemont Reservoir is the latest to be constructed. Here we can see it as it was being built. Note the excavation work and the pillars that are being erected. The reservoirs are essentially little underground lakes of potable water. Concrete walls and ceilings keep them completely watertight and provide a cover which is planted with greensward and trees. Except for Bellingham, the reservoirs conceal their water and have all the appearances of inviting peaceful parks. Their total capacity falls just short of 140 million gallons, the exact figure being 138,280,000. Rosemont Reservoir, at 220 feet, has a capacity of 50 million gallons. As we have said, it is fed directly by the central pumping station. St. Helens Island, on the other hand, is not connected with the Montreal system. It has its own filters and the reservoir is hidden under a decorative tower. From the head of the aqueduct canal passing through the central plant by way of large conduits and reservoirs, the water flows according to the needs of a territory which is roughly comprised within the boundaries of Saint-Laurent, Côte-Saint-Luc, and La Salle, the whole center of Montreal Island, and eastward to the end of the island. These water mains are generally made of concrete. The one you see being built here is 48 inches across. They carry the indispensable liquid to the local conduits and then into the factory and the home. Now we are going to see the laying of a local main in one of Montreal's new streets. First, there's the domestic sewer, laid deep in the trench, and then the water main is laid on top of it. There are valves at stated intervals, so the water supply can be cut off for repairs or other reasons. Water mains must be put down as fast as houses are put up, and so scenes like this one happened over and over during the building boom following the war hundreds of times. As building has raced ahead, the waterworks has had to perform wonders to keep up. There is an intricate but invisible system of feeders, secondary and local mains spread beneath the pavements and sidewalks. All these mains, if laid out end to end, would reach 1,300 miles. There are some 8,500 hydrants, 17,000 valves, 12,000 meters, and so on. Operation of the aqueduct and maintenance of the system is the job of the Waterwork Division of the Department of Public Works. The territory is divided into 4 districts, each with its regional office and the whole under central administration. Behind all these statistics, there are human beings, an ever-watchful technical staff charged with keeping the water flowing and doing an efficient troubleshooting job as soon as there is even a hint of an emergency. Purity is the word as far as our drinking water is concerned. The very mains which bring it to us are sterilized before being put to use. The Public Works Service has a truck specially equipped for sterilizing new conduits. It is done with a strong solution of chlorine prepared on the spot and poured into the main to be disinfected. So the inner walls of the pipe are purged of all contamination. Then, to make security doubly sure, bacteriological tests are made to prove the treatment was effective. It takes 1,000 sanitary precautions to make sure your drinking water is really drinkable. This thought takes us back to the filtration plant, where we can follow the daily laboratory work, for it is the laboratory which takes the ultimate responsibility for seeing that the health regulations are fully observed. Following a determined route, samples are picked up throughout the supplied territory. These are brought to the laboratory and submitted to the various tests. Assurance is made that the water delivered to the public conforms to the established public health requirements. At the laboratory, the samples gathered here and there are subjected to bacteriological tests, which are the most important. In the first test, each sample is mixed in predetermined proportions with a broth or culture medium which has been previously sterilized under pressure. This is a special lactose mixture containing juices favorable to the development of coliform bacteria. Examination reveals, in the case of pollution, presence of colibacilli, the inseparable companion of typhoid fever bacillus. Its absence proves the good quality of the water. The second bacteriological test consists in seeding on agar. As in the first test, the quantities taken from the samples are measured with the greatest of care and placed in a different culture medium. This time we deal with the evaluation of the bacterial greasy substance and the counting on the plate. After a certain period in the incubator, we can determine approximate quantity of bacteria. The calculation is made and the results written into reports. These tests, repeated day in and day out, made on samples gathered from the entire territory serviced, testify to the well-ordered operation of the waterworks all the way through the filtration plant to the water supply in homes. Contamination must never be allowed to take hold. It must be fought by never-ending laboratory work. In the plant itself, there is regular sampling of the water at different stages of its purification. The raw water first, then the filtered water, finally the filtered and chlorinated water are analyzed and tested continuously. Besides bacteriological examinations, Montreal's water also undergoes chemical and physical tests. The physical test has to do with the color, odor, taste, and turbidity. Chemical tests determine the hardness of the water and its content of mineral salts. Montreal's water is considered to be of medium hardness. This accumulated information is freely available to people who may need it. Laundrymen, for example, and manufacturers of food products or heating systems, and so on. The laboratory is really deserving of high marks. Ever since chlorination, which was begun in 1910, and filtration, which goes back to 1918, mortality from typhoid fever in Montreal has been completely eliminated, even though there had been some quite disastrous epidemics before that time. Water from the aqueduct ends in many varieties of use. Fountains and ponds enhance the beauty of gardens and buildings. Outdoor and indoor swimming pools provide a lot of happy, healthy fun for divers and swimmers. We need water to keep our public streets clean. Fire is an eternal threat to property and life. Water is fire's enemy and our protector. Many industries owe their very existence to the availability of plenty of water. The ship leaving port, the train setting out for a long journey, the airplane taking off for other lands, all these take a supply of Montreal's water, a water recognized by both the federal and provincial health authorities as meeting all the stringent requirements for such cases. For Montreal's water is thoroughly wholesome. Drawn entirely from the clear, swift current of the St. Lawrence, it does not require the coagulation and sedimentation often necessary elsewhere. Filtered, chlorinated, periodically submitted to exacting tests in the laboratory, it regularly reaches 400,000 homes in Montreal and the 18 surrounding municipalities. It feeds a vast territory divided into supply zones, each dependent upon a reservoir situated on a higher level than itself, the most important of which are the McTavish, Rosemount, and Bellingham reservoirs. Each Montrealer, from the youngest to the oldest, needs in round figures a daily quota of 125 gallons. Built in the last century at the cost of $100 to $150 million according to present-day values, the Montreal Aqueduct is the most considerable enterprise of its kind in Canada. Its construction and efficient operation are something that the present and past city councillors may be justly proud of. The same pride must also reflect upon the Public Works Department, which, through the Aqueduct and Waterworks Division, guarantees its maintenance and expansion. Water is one of the most important of our human factors, for before everything else, the Montreal Aqueduct is conceived to satisfy the needs of man and his home.